Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
Welcome to the Voice Over Now podcast. I'm your host, D. Foster III, CEO of Wake Up Global Network. Listen, you know the spill at the beginning of the show. Like, share, follow, subscribe to this channel, support this channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we upload brand new content. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. And do we have a show for you today? I want you to share it. If you're on your way home, it's Friday evening. If you're sitting at happy hour, wherever you are, turn it up so your other people can hear it, right? Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. Turn it up. We got a great show for you today. I want to say thank you for all of your support. Thank you for supporting WPBMediaNetworks.com. Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe, and push this channel, push this platform up in the crazy algorithms. What in the algorithms are going on with the algorithms of YouTube? But whatever it is, keep pressing like, keep pressing subscribe, keep pressing follow. At the beginning of the show, I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Mother's Day weekend. I sure did. I want to say thank you for all of your love and support. And don't forget, if you have not followed us on our social media page, now come on, we need some more of you to follow us on our social media page on the Voice Over Podcast on IG, the Voice Over Podcast on IG, on TikTok, in the Voice Over Podcast on TikTok, and the Voice Over Pod on X. Like us, share us, follow us. Listen, I want to say also, if you follow me, if you happen to know anybody that follows me on an old page, Bishop Darnell Johnson, it's been hacked. I've not been on that page in over a year. And it's been hacked to the point, the password and everything, reported, all the false information. And people say, we know you. I understand that, but it's still the fact of the matter. That's why I'm not on Facebook. The fact of the matter. So if you follow that page, Bishop Darnell Johnson, it's been hacked, reported. I'm locked out of it. I've been trying to shut it down for 2 weeks. And it's always, you're not on the right device. But anyway, I just wanted to make that known to you. And if you can send me any information at my email address, thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail, of how to shut this down other than the link of delete. I've been on that link and it won't let me shut it down because it keeps saying it doesn't recognize the device. So anyway, all right. Why don't you like this? Why don't you share this? Why don't you follow this? We are in part 2 of the current and future state of leadership in America, especially over Black organizations. And this is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, you owe it to yourself to hear the Red Lobster story. It's not really a Red Lobster story. It was a segue into a larger topic. We just didn't get a chance to get into it last week. Oh, have you listened to the Voice Over Today audio podcast? I forgot to mention it. We got some content on that podcast. It's a little different than this. We have an eye on the culture. And so we dig deep into the culture and we go deep into current issues. I think on Wednesdays we did, who did Drake tick off? And we follow that rabbit hole. Wednesday before we did Will Black Media Survive, Sink or Swim? So Wednesdays, it's audio. So you can be at your desk. You can be at the gym. Like that, share that. Right here on we do it all right here on WPB Media. Shout out to April J. and Pastor Maple Hall. I always honor her. That's April J's mom, who has always been such a tremendous blessing to us. But check out our midweek, 12 noon. It uploads every Wednesday at 12 noon, audio, the Voice Over Today audio podcast. We go deep into the culture. We don't tell you what to think. We just want to make sure we provide you the goods to think. Like this video. Part 2, the current and future state of leadership. And I left off with what I felt would be some solutions to strengthening, especially Black leadership in America today. So you can go back and watch last week's video. Part 2. I have to say, before I get started in my content for today, that surprisingly so, Fred Price Jr., and for those of you who might not be in the church world and know who Fred Price Jr. is, I'm sure you may have heard of his dad if you are a certain age. Fred Price Sr. transitioned a few years ago. And during the 80s, he was the pastor of what I would consider the largest Black megachurch in America, Crenshaw Christian Center. And his congregation got up to somewhere around 10,000. But of course, as the word of faith began to wane, and as things begin to change, and certainly as COVID came in, all of that changed. Where am I going with this? I'm segueing into my bigger topic for today concerning dear beloved Pastor Frederick Haynes. But anyway, Fred Price is a good segue. I respect Fred Price Jr. I don't really know Fred Price. I've never really been interested in Fred Price Jr.'s teaching. After a while, I even lost interest in Fred Price Sr.'s teaching. I mean, you know, I was a part of his organization in the late 80s and 90s, Fit with him when it was hot and everybody was there. But soon, you know, it kept saying the same thing. And, I was trying to grow and, evolved and pastored and flowed in and, and I kind of lost touch with Fred Price. Dear brother, integrous brother, never a scandal came out on Fred Price. Praise God. But anyway, I lost touch with his ministry. And then when he transitioned his ministry over to his son, didn't ever grab my fancy, never had anything against the brother, just didn't never hit my spiritual giving. So, but I've gained a lot of respect for the brother. You say, times a national figure, and he is national by right of taking his dad's place. Everybody knows Crenshaw Christian Center. I mean, Creflo Dollar was just there. Phil Cadeau Jr., he's still in that word of faith vein. Bless his heart. That's, was just there. So, maybe millennials don't, but if you were in this 80s in church in the 80s, Crenshaw. So he's still kind of popular. The church is kind of still known. I won't say it's popular, but it's still known. But the other day I'm flipping through YouTube, actually looking for one of my videos. Don't you love the honesty? And the algorithms pushed the 50th anniversary celebration of Crenshaw Christian Center in my channel. So of course I'm gonna look at it. I didn't even know they were 50. So I looked at it and they did like a pass thing. When the dad founded the church and the history of the dad and the mom and all of that kind of stuff, then they went up to how they outgrew their church on Inglewood. I remember that. And they had like 3 services and people were standing outside. That's when Crenshaw was hot. I believe that's when it was at its zenith. And then Fred Price said, listen, the Lord told me to build a building where everybody can get into one service. And he built 10,000 seats where he agreed he could have did 5. I agreed he could have did 5. I mean, I'd rather have you standing outside than preaching to cheers, right? So anyway, bringing up Fred Price Jr. So the dad transitions, Fred Price Jr. is the pastor. Things drastically change. Not only does times change, but of course the people who came because of the dad probably change because they came there because of the dad. And when the dad was no longer there, they found other places to go. That's natural. That's normal. So when they were interviewing Fred Price Jr. on this 50th anniversary, and I encourage you to go and look at it. If the algorithms haven't pushed it up in your channel selections, video selections, go dig it up, right? But Fred Price Jr., they interviewed him several times. They interviewed the sister Angela, who was the shot caller at Crenshaw when I was going around. They interviewed Betty, who's 90 years old, Betty Price, Fred Price's wife. And they interviewed Fred Jr., the pastor. And he said something that's taken me right into today's content, connecting to last week's content. So they mentioned how the dome has changed, how Crenshaw has changed, how it's gone from this thriving, budding influential ministry all over Los Angeles, packing in thousands and thousands a week. And I'm cutting through the story for time. So now currently, if they have a good Sunday, 1,000 in a 10,000 seat sanctuary. And Fred Price says something, Fred Price Jr. says something that endeared me to his integrity, not his message, his integrity forever. So the interviewer was asking him, where does he see the church? How does it feel to come into a sanctuary that's not even a quarter full, an eighth full, 800 people in a 10,000 seat sanctuary? That has, let's be honest, that has to be discouraging. But here I hear a leader speak. He says, I appreciate all the prophecies that the dome will be full again. He says, but I'm not even sure that's going to happen. He says, times have changed. He says, people have learned to worship in different styles. I'm thinking, I got to hear this. Thank God. Somebody is not trying to resurrect the past. He says, no, we don't have the thousands that we had when my dad was here, but our YouTube numbers are higher than they've ever been. If it were up to me, I'd like to cut it in half. I'd like us to keep where we can seat maybe about 2,500, I think he said, to 5,000, and do something community-wise with the other half. I'm saying, good God Almighty. Now that's a leader. Somebody who understands the past is gone. You say, why did he endear himself to you? Because he didn't stand there trying to memorialize or museumize the good old days when his dad was there. It's like, oh yes, they're coming back. They'll never come back. The dome will never be filled. Yes, I'm saying it. Times have changed. He's not, when Fred Price Sr. filled the dome, it was a move. It was a movement. He was saying things, and this is what his son said, people had never heard before. We've heard the word of faith. We've oversaturated with the word of faith. Most churches who stay in that vein are not even thriving. I told you this straight, no chaser. Don't put no mask on over here. If you at happy hour, you can tell them, give it to you straight, because that's the way P. Foster giving it to you. They're not even thriving anymore. There's a generation who's not even going to church. They're connecting, if they are connecting, through social media. Now, that's not my subject today. My subject is the current and future state of leadership in America, especially in Black organizations, including the Black church. I wish there were more Fred Price Jr.'s in leadership. Our organizations would be better. You know what he said? He said, instead of having all of this for sanctuary, he said, one of the mistakes my father made, and he admitted it, he built too big. He says, God didn't tell me to build 10,000. I thought building 10,000, I could get everybody in. But a lot of people left because a lot of people, when you marginalize from several services and give people one choice, you're going to lose a segment of people because certain people have their set service. If you say service is at 8, then you move in a new building and say service is 10:30, that don't fit my 8 fancy. That fit the 11 fancy. So you're going to lose a large set. I don't have to go into that church dynamic thing, but it happens all the time. And that's what happened to Fred Price. So instead of putting 10,000 in the dome, that he admits, I was impressed with their honesty, that they lost 1,000 people when they moved in the dome. And they didn't say that then, but they're saying it now because it's a different day. Fred Price Jr. is a model of future leadership in America. What understanding what time it is, not being in denial. God, deliver us from these denial leaders. Like maybe Jesse Jackson and his organization. Museums, some mortuaries, because of ancient leadership memorializing the past. And if anybody had a right to do that, Fred Price Jr. had a right. But thank God, as a current leader, he says, I'm not going into denial. We may see 800 to 1,000. Before COVID, we saw maybe 2,000. The other 1,000 took COVID as an opportunity to bail out, as a lot of people did. They've been wanting to go. Like this, share this, follow. This brings me to this article by Religion News Services. Y'all tell me it ain't so. Tell me it ain't so. Tell me one of the most thriving, popular, influential of the culture, ear to the ground, growing church, well respected, Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes. If you don't know who he is, Google him, look him up. Resigns abruptly as leader of Rainbow Push Coalition. Let's talk about it. Because nobody takes on this kind of assignment and in less than a year resigns unless, and I'll get to the unless. So I'm gonna read this article out of the Religion News Services. You know, I like to document my source. I have to admit, I met Dr. Haynes at a pastor's conference once, maybe 15 years ago. I don't know Dr. Freddie Haynes. I know a lot of people who know him, and the people that know him spoke well. His church, Friendship West, in Dallas, Texas, is very influential. He's about social justice. He's in the community. He is a modern voice. I'm not sure Haynes' age, they probably will give it in here, but whatever his age is, he speaks the culture. He has a very thriving, multifaceted church. Oh, I know where I met him. I met him through Reverend Dr. Willie Wilson because we were preaching in the same week. That's what it was. And I think he stayed over. He stayed over. And I was introduced to him through Reverend Willie Wilson at Union Temple Baptist Church. But all that being said, I said, say it ain't so. The cycle, share this, of grand openings and grand closings of today's leadership, not yesterday's. They never close. Today's leadership. I'm gonna read this article a little bit, and I don't do a lot of redaction. I don't do a lot of commentary on articles or videos, but I felt the need to get into this today based on our subject of the future and current state of leadership in America, especially in Black organizations, because this is a repetitive cycle. It is. And I think I know why. April 17, 2024, the Reverend Dr. Frederick D. Haynes III, who succeeded the Reverend Jesse Jackson as president, that's a very prominent position. Who wouldn't want that? Of the Rainbow Push Coalition has resigned. I want you to say, suddenly, that's a very key word. When will he do it? Suddenly. He did it. Freddie Haynes did it suddenly. I love it. That's decisiveness. All right? He has resigned suddenly from leading the Chicago-based civil rights organization. Now, I quote Dr. Haynes. Share this video, like it, subscribe, follow us on our social media page, The Voice Over Podcast on IG and on TikTok, and The Voice Over Pod on X. And we'll follow you back. Here's a quote from Dr. Haynes. After continued prayer and deliberation, I've decided to step down from the position of Chief Executive Officer and President of the Rainbow Push Coalition, effective immediately. All right, Freddie Haynes. That's what I'm talking about. We ain't playing no games with this. Haynes said in a statement issued Tuesday, April the 16th, on Rainbow Push letterhead. Okay? Haynes, the pastor. That's his statement on letterhead, and I end quote. Haynes, the pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas, for 4 decades, this man for 40 years. And the church has done nothing but grown. I remember about 10 years ago, when I first came back from Katrina, they were in a building project. They built a brand new building from the ground up. I'm telling you, Friendship is a thriving, relevant, cultural church in the Dallas area, especially now. For 4 decades, Haynes could not be reached for additional comments. In a video, he called his work Succeeding Jackson a single honor. But watch this. But said it was time, now you've been in there less than a year, for him to continue his work in a different way. Bingo. That told me everything. D. Foster, you can't, that told me I'm intelligent. That phraseology told me everything. You want me, this is my surmising, to lead in your way, whoever your way is, whether it's the board that was been there, that's committed to Jesse, whether it's Jesse that's still there, whether it's Jesse's sons and children that's still, whoever you are, I'm out. This was the capstone phrase. And I like Freddie Haynes. He didn't dance around it. He didn't pretend. He didn't say, well, you know, I want to go spend more time with my church. He said, and I re-quote, in a video statement, he called his work Succeeding Jackson a single honor. But conjunction with your function. Said it was time for him to continue his work in a different way. What was the different way? I'm just saying, this is my opinion. This is my platform, so I can give my opinion. Maybe a more innovative way. Maybe a new way. Or maybe not the way Reverend Jackson did it. Now, all of the old heads are really getting upset with me over this message, and I really don't care. Because it has nothing to do with age. It has something to do with here. Because I know a lot of millennials who do stuff. I just heard one, the old way. I'm like, dude, you are at least 30 years younger than your dad. But anyway, like this, share it, give it to whoever you want to. He says, continuing, I felt it necessary in light of the huge challenges faced by our community, in light of the challenges faced by this nation and world during this consequential year, to move in a different direction. Capstone, bullet point, I'm pointing out why he left. To move in a different direction. Do you think he was pigeonholed into following Reverend Jackson? I sure hope not. Last time I saw Reverend Jackson. No. Huh? Because Because this tells me I'm smart. He didn't say it, but inference. Y'all wanted me to move in a way I ain't moving. Y'all trying to go back. Y'all trying to build a monument around Red. This goes back to what I was saying last week with Red Lobster. Oh, I love the Morning Hustle. Shout out to the Morning Hustle. Cal Santellian. I've tried to find his name. And L'Oreal. That's my gym piece. I be rolling, y'all. Does this sound like the all-you-can-eat shrimp promotion that helped put Red Lobster? The leadership who agreed we should give all-you-can-eat shrimp that just helped to show poor leadership? Let me repeat this. I love this. I applaud, shout out to Dr. Freddie Haynes for having the respect and the grace, but yet the boldness to state why he was stepping down. See, I'm not going to let you paint your narrative. I'm not going to let you paint your narrative. I'm going to paint the narrative. And it is because, and I quote, in light of the challenges faced by this nation and world during the consequential year, to move forward in a different direction. He said in the video statement posted on Instagram, I will continue to fight for justice. I will continue to be a prophetic witness. Here it is again. What do you need to see it? I will just do it in another lane while continuing to honor the work. That's what I'm talking about, of Rainbow Push and Reverend Jackson. You have an idea of how we can get the job done. And if it was, as I said last week, you wouldn't have needed new leadership. But obviously the will was broken and nobody within the combustion could take us to the next level. So you called one of the most prominent pastors in the country, one of the most busiest pastors, to help get your organization off the ground. And in my opinion, that's someone says about money. No, all of that was probably worked out before we came. Unless, and I don't know this, I don't feel this. I've talked to one or two people about this, and they seem to be on the same path. But Dr. Haynes, none of us had talked to Dr. Haynes. Could have been money. But if it was money, I'm sure it was a money amount he agreed to. So the only thing, if it was money, which I really don't feel it was money. I mean, I don't think Freddie Haynes is hurting for money like that. He's committed to the cause. And if it was money, say they didn't follow through with their commitment. So it's not something he got there and started expecting. I think it was more along the lines of leadership. If you won't entrust my leadership, I said it last week. He said, I'm out. All right, let's keep reading. The Associated Press reported that Jackson said in a statement that Rainbow Push had accepted the resignation. What else are you going to do? And said they will continue as partners in fight for the peace, civil rights, and economic justice. He said his son, Yusef. Now, I have a very important question after 1 year. Pardon me for thinking. If Yusef was qualified to take it after Dr. Haynes resigned, since it was less than a year, why didn't Yusef take it in the first place? Why did they bring in, just pardon me for thinking. If Yusef is qualified, and I don't know Yusef, but I'm just saying, if Yusef was qualified, Dr. Jackson's son, Yusef, was qualified to take the reins of Rainbow Coalition, whatever, after Dr. Jackson, why did he bring in Dr. Haynes? So now we're left with USAF, because Dr. Haynes has a lot of influence in this country. Dr. Haynes is very known. My mom's pastor, Dr. Grant, went to school with Dr. Haynes. Jimmy Baldwin went to school with Dr. I can name you 10 pastors that I personally know that went to school. Dr. Haynes is no small potato. He has a lot of influence in and out of the church world, in the political world. So you traded Dr. Haynes. No insult on you, Seth. But I have to ask the questions, the hard questions. Why didn't he bring you, Seth, if he was qualified in before Dr. Haynes? Or are we forced now to accept Yusef as our leader because Dad sure is not able to step back? All right, let's keep reading. Let's keep reading. Let the paper speak. Jay-Z said, let the tears, gotta let the song cry. Can't see tears running down my eyes. Let the paper cry. In July, when the transfer of leadership was announced, Elder Jackson said he would continue to be a part of its work. So Freddie Haynes became, not even a year ago, leader last July, and Reverend Jackson tells you his intent. I will continue to be a part of his work. I will continue to run Rainbow Push Coalition through Dr. Freddie Haynes. You said, no, D. Foster, you're making it up. No, you're not hearing. I said last week, here's the issue with leadership. Honor it, remember the legacy, give them the respect. But if you want it, keep it. If not, I think we have to learn to be the coach on the sideline. Your day of running the ball, you resigned, Dr. Jackson. You said you wanted to give it over. If you wanted to keep it and continue his work, you should have kept it and left Dr. Haynes. And I'm not taking up for Dr. Freddie Haynes. I'm dealing with protocol. I'm dealing with the scenario. So I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm dealing with what I see and with a little bit of what I heard. If you wanted to keep it, you should have left Dr. Haynes in Dallas at Friendship. He got enough to do. But he said, what you're not going to do is run Rainbow through me while you still run things. Because it's not like I'm an incompetent leader. Now, let's, I know you may not see it that way, but that's, but he did start the organization and he finished it too. See, the founder's supposed to start it, but not finish it. Woo. You're right, he started it. And before Dr. Haynes came, when the last time, come on. It's like the NAACP. It's like National Negro. When the last time y'all heard these organizations being influential? Oh, okay. What change? The college protesters are more influential because they're out there doing something. I'm not saying I agree with it, but they're out there doing something. What are these organizations doing? Having banquets, having fundraisers, having luncheons, getting on TV every week, hollering about justice. Like it, share it, follow. Like it, share it, follow it. I'm looking forward to the next chapter where I continue to focus on economic. This is Jackson, Elder Jackson. To the next chapter where I'll continue to focus. No, excuse me, this is Dr. Haynes. I'm looking forward to the next chapter where I'll continue to focus on economic justice, mentorship, yes, training others to take your place. While you are the coach on the sideline and don't always have to be the center of attention. That's what I do. Training others to take your place. Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Teaching ministers how to fight for social justice, he said in a statement at that time. I will still be very involved in the organization, and I'm proud that we have chosen. Oh no, this is Jackson, excuse me. Mentorship. Well, that changes my, this is Jackson. Mentorship. Wait a minute, let me go back. I thought that was Jackson. But when it talked, remember I said this is Jackson, but then when I started seeing all of these glamorous words, I thought it was Haynes. But Jackson continues. I'm looking forward to the next chapter where I continue to focus on economic justice. When y'all, okay, mentorship, teaching ministers how to fight for social justice. That's why I couldn't believe it was Reverend Jackson. He said in a statement at the time, I will be very involved in the organization. Problem. All right. From where? From behind or front and center? Because that will make all the difference whether this organization, well, I can't say stays relevant, but regains its relevance through USEF. And I'm very proud that we have chosen Dr. Haynes as my successor. So he said all of this. So his intent was never to step aside. Now, let me show you Dr. Haynes. Haynes, who is triply aligned with the National Baptist Convention, USA, Progressive National Baptist Convention, American Baptist Churches of USA's, told that this is what Freddie Haynes like, okay, I ain't looking for something to do. Told Religious News Services in July interview that he was comfortable adding the additional role in his life. And I quote, I don't know that it will be that much of a new juggle because I've been blessed to pastor Friendship West for 40 years and have built a solid infrastructure. So this man has built an infrastructure. In other words, I don't need my hands in everything because I've built an infrastructure and put the right people in places where friendship runs itself. And I'm coming to help Rainbow Push Coalition do the same thing. I'm taking my skills. This is my interjection. This is my commentary. I'm taking my skills. I've got a proven track record at Friendship West for 40 years, not less than a year. I've built an infrastructure. I've got proper staffing, proper administration, proper teachers, so I can spend some time in Chicago. This is basically what I pick up, he was saying. I have a great staff, a wonderful church, quite supportive. And the work I'll be doing at Rainbow Push is in reality a larger platform of work I've always been doing. Reverend Al Sharpton chimes in lauds Haynes' work in a Tuesday statement posted on social media. And he said he appreciated his colleagues' contributions to Rainbow Push. That's right. Toe that line. As someone who has been a student and mentee of Reverend Jackson since I was 12, this is still Al Sharpton, words cannot express my gratitude to Reverend Haynes for sharing his time away from his mammoth, you're right about it, his mammoth ministry and youth church responsibilities. Sharpton said he has helped stabilize Rainbow Push, but you cannot convince me his job was done. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. What I hear is, Jesse, if you want it, take it. But if I'm the leader, CEO, if I'm at the helm, I'm going to steer the ship in the direction that I feel as the leader that has been appointed necessary for us to go into for growth and development. If you don't like that, because I'm not going to memorialize the past, because that's where we are here. I'm not going to let you run this through me. I honor you. I respect you. I appreciate the opportunity. but I'm also a visionary. And again, this is not the words of Dr. Haynes as a disclaimer. This is what I read. This is my you may interpret something different. This is my interpretation. And it's bringing out the larger issue in Black leadership. The coalition's history dates back to 1966. Operation Breadbasket. Wonder, are they operating on the same model? When the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. appointed Jackson to direct the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Operation Breadbasket in Chicago, boycotting white businesses that did not employ Black Americans. Watch this. In '71, Jackson founded PUSH, which first stood for People United to Save Humanity, and later People United to Serve Humanity, according to the coalition's website in '96. The Rainbow PUSH Coalition formed from the merger of PUSH with the National Rainbow Coalition, creating a civil rights organization with an aim for economic and educational equality, end quote. Now, I did a lot of reading today on purpose because I wanted you to see in living color from last week the bigger issue at hand and what needs to change, in my opinion, and obviously in the opinion of a lot of forward-thinking leaders, is not original leadership vanish. But it's as simple as this. And I'm gonna put it like this. One of my favorite movies is The Wire. And when Marlo was first introduced, you know Marlo, those of you who watch The Wire, shout out to The Wire. When Marlo was first introduced, he's introduced coming out of the house. And his drivers and his security is roughing up a drug addict who, Bubbles, who going down the hill, let go of the cart he was pushing that Bubbles kept his stuff in, and it ran into Marlo's truck. So they got Bubbles and got Bubbles' partner, and they threatening him and what they're gonna do. And Marlo comes out, I'll never forget it, putting on his jacket. And Marlo say, time to go. Then his driver say, you see what he did? He ran his cart into our car. We ought to bang him for this. Here's what I say to every organization, the words of Marlo. Marlo said, I'll never forget these words. Do it or don't it, but I got somewhere to be. If you're gonna do it, do it. If you're not gonna do it, let's go. To leadership. From last week, when you realize you've reached the zenith and what you've built is starting to roll back downhill, do Marlo. Do it. Stay in there. Fight to keep it alive. Fight to keep it relevant if you know how. Do it or don't it. And if you're not, gracefully step aside and make space for new, forward-thinking, honorable, integral, appreciative leaders. Leaders that will not memorialize your actions of the past, but will honor the work that you have done and celebrate the work that you have done and celebrate you for the work that you have done and come to you as a counselor on the side for wisdom and insight. But if you're going to lead, lead. And leave me be. I think that's the lesson. That's the Red Lobster lesson. That's the Fred Price Jr. lesson. That's Jesse Jackson, Freddie Haynes lesson. I'm sure there's no beef between them, and this wasn't to create beef. I'm simply giving out the information in my commentary. But Rainbow came up a little short, in my opinion. Now you say there could always be information that you didn't know about, and it could. I'm going by the information that I know about and the people that I have, 2 people, talk to, who kind of have inside information. So for the future, even D. Foster 3, when it comes to Wake Up Global Networks, do it or don't it. I want you to like this video. I want you to share. Email me, thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. Don't forget, follow us on our social media platform. Join me every Sunday morning, 7 a.m. for the Voice of Hope Connection. Until next week, this is D. Foster 3 saying, you have a voice. Keep lifting it. Peace.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram @The Voiceover Radio. Twitter @DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be heard.